How cute. Those were the words that came out of her mouth as I stared at her with a perplexed look on my face. Never in my life did I think a person would use such words to describe one of these beings. Her choice of words wasn't the only thing I found odd about her, because I was also curious as to why she had a smile on her face. It took me a while, but I finally figured it out, as the words, "She actually wants to do this," crossed through my mind. She was probably a civilian who willingly accepted the offer to undergo the test as a subject. I'm not going to lie. I thought she was crazy, as I couldn't think of any reason why someone would willingly undergo these tests. But I also envied her, because at the end of this clown show, only one of us is going to be walking out of here with a paycheck. And to expatiate a little more, only one of us was actually classified as a human being. My name is Diego Gonzalez, and for the past 6 years of my life, I worked as a Class D personnel for the SCP Foundation. I always found it a bit funny when they used the term Class D personnel, as deep down, I knew that was just a nice way of saying cattle, because that's all we really were. Sometimes when I look back, it feels like I've been here forever, as I can't remember much of my life before the Foundation. However, I do remember how I got here, and it all started with the curse that was my birth. It's basically the same old story. Right from when I was born, I got the premium shitty life package. Little to no food, torn clothes, and no place to call home. So like every other person living like that, I had a choice. Either I kept my hands clean by doing menial work and receiving scraps in return, or I get my hands dirty so that I'd be able to feed my siblings. I decided to go with the latter because I knew that apart from my life, I had nothing else to lose. It was nice while it lasted, but as usual, the shit show that is my life eventually caught up with me, and I was caught. I wasn't surprised though, as I knew getting my hands dirty would have its consequences, and I didn't need anyone to tell me that my hands were extremely dirty. I was charged with numerous offenses: drug distribution, trafficking, and possession, in addition to aiding and being an accomplice in 14 counts of first-degree murder. Before you go out of your way to judge me, let me just say that the people I got paid to kill were literally the lowest of the low. I made sure of it, as I didn't take jobs that targeted innocent people. But logic like that doesn't work in real life, or the court of law. Murder is murder, and I knew the consequences that came with that. I was given life imprisonment, but oddly enough, that sentence only lasted 2 years, as the prison I was sent to was already reaching its capacity. So the people on top decided to do some spring cleaning, and I was one of the many people that was put on the chopping block. My sentence was illegally and unofficially increased to the death penalty, and I was to be executed within the month. I had accepted my fate, as I thought it was a fitting end to the miserable story that was my life. But apparently, fate had other plans for me, as the SCP Foundation arrived on the morning of my execution, and they graciously offered to take me off the prison's hands. During my first week at the SCP Foundation, I thought I had lucked out, as I told myself that life was finally giving me a break by saving me from the noose. But after just 2 weeks at the Foundation, it didn't take long for me to crave the death that I was so scared of. I felt that way because I told myself every morning that if I had been executed that day, it would have been done and dusted, and the torture and fear of death would have been quick, as I would have been put out of my misery once and for all. But at the Foundation, I'm constantly reliving that torture. It's like a morbid loop, as I wake up every day wondering if it'd be my last. I asked for a journal to write down my days. It was an old habit I developed as a kid when I found an old journal in the trash. I do it every day to mostly stay sane and keep a bit of normality in my life. Every morning, I make peace with whoever is up there, as with every new test that I'm subjected to, I lose a piece of myself, and it wouldn't be long till I'm completely gone. As I said earlier, I let out a little chuckle every time the Foundation's scientists call us personnel or subject with a smile on their faces. It was funny and sickening at the same time because, in truth, we were nothing but the Foundation's cattle to these people. And similar to the lives of cows, every morning they ship us out like cattle to the slaughterhouse. To be honest, I don't know why I wasn't dead yet, as I had been subjected to numerous anomalies during my time here, and I can remember each and every one of them. One of the first beings that I was told to interact with was something that looked like it came out of the bowels of a fictional character. I heard them call it SCP-999, and I was told to act natural as the creature came to me in an embrace. Luckily for me, it was safe and I wasn't harmed, but nothing could explain the terror I felt, not knowing what the creature would do as it approached me. The next week, I was told to observe a sapient scarf, SCP-2991. I was instructed to make small talk with it and report back my findings. A lot of things can make a man go mad, and I'm pretty sure one of them is sitting in a dark room for 18 hours talking to an inanimate object and having to wonder if it's capable of killing you or not. From strange books to humanoids to otherworldly beings. I'm pretty sure that I've seen it all during my time here. And the worst part about it is that you never get used to it, as the word normal completely vanishes from your dictionary. To be honest, what's truly maddening isn't the fact that I'm subjected to the whims of these creatures. No. What's truly maddening is the build-up to that encounter. The psychological and mental terror of not knowing is what gets me every time. Not knowing whether I'd come back the same way to my bed, as I've seen people that have come back in pieces. Some have come back looking inhuman, and some of us haven't come back at all. For some weird reason, fate has made it so that I only come in contact with objects or things termed as safe classes. And while some people see it as luck, I see it as nothing but eternal punishment. Now that you're all caught up with the past, let me take you back to the beginning of my entry. The day was the 8th of May, 2009. That day, like every other day, saw me and a group of people being put under another test. We were told to socialize with what looked like a living teardrop-shaped creature, and it had an eye in the middle of its head, SCP-131. It seemed friendly, thus the warm reaction of the civilian woman stated earlier. When the tests were done, we were escorted back to our rooms, and that night, I muttered a prayer hoping and wishing that the next creature I would meet would be my last. Day, 9th October, 2009. Time, 6:00 a.m. Today was the 9th of October, 2009. I was woken up by 6 in the morning, and I was led down the hall to a particular room. On getting there, I noticed that all the people, apart from me, were all sporting grade A biohazard suits. I looked into the room they were all observing, and I could slightly make out the silhouette of a small man. As I looked around to take in more of my surroundings, I realized that we were in an adjoined room. The scientists were all on one side, and the individual who I assumed was the anomaly was on the other side. There was only one door leading to the room, and it didn't have a handle, so I assumed it was remotely controlled. When all the preparations were complete, one of the scientists walked up to me and said, "So, from now on, you'd be referred to as Subject A. We need you to go in there and interact with the individual." Confused, I looked at her and asked, "Is that all?" She then quickly replied with, "Yes, that's all you need to do." I could feel the anxiety well up inside me, as due to all the biohazard suits, in addition to the numerous precautions, I could tell that whoever was on the other side of the wall was extremely dangerous. They told me to stand in front of the door as I heard the words, "Proceeding with Test 1 of SCP-1242. Opening the doors now." At the end of the message, the door was remotely opened, and I was instructed to walk inside. As I entered the room, I began to take in my surroundings. It was a white room with nothing in it, and sitting in the middle of the room was a small Caucasian human male. His appearance perplexed me, as I couldn't tell if he was a child or an adult, because he possessed the body of a 7-year-old, but his face had much more mature features. It was hard to pinpoint his age, but he looked like an adolescent. If I had to take a guess, I'd say he was probably 18 or 19. As I walked closer to observe him, nothing seemed out of the ordinary to me, as I was sure that if anyone else saw him on the road, they would think he was just a normal person suffering from dwarfism. The more I studied him, the more I realized that he didn't technically look like your usual dwarf. To be honest, he looked like a teenager who had been shrunk down. It's hard to find the words to explain it, but apart from the dwarfism, that was the only thing that came to my mind. Apart from his small size, he had brown hair that looked unkempt, and he wore normal clothes. I stood in front of him when a one-word instruction came from the speaker. "Speak." So I looked at him and said, "What's up, dude? Must have been a hell of a bender last night for you to have ended up here this morning." Nothing but silence replied me as the strange man said nothing. I was a bit confused as I thought He didn't understand much English or dry humor. I also thought the statement I made was pretty funny and I at least expected a chuckle, but the man in front of me didn't even react. Not knowing what to do next, I decided to get a bit closer. I got on one knee so that I could see his face more clearly, and as I looked him in the eyes, I could immediately tell that those were the eyes of someone who wanted to die. I then decided to try a different approach as I said, "Bad day, huh? I've been there and I'm pretty sure that I'm one of the only people here who can relate to what you're feeling now. Believe me, I've felt it for most of my life." Within seconds of my statement, the small man rushed towards me. I backed away quickly, but I accidentally tripped and fell over. The man then got a little closer to me as he stared at me for a couple of minutes before he raised his hand. My heart started beating fast as I thought, this is it. This is where his arms turn into a blade or a monster, and he kills me. But no matter how scared I was, I didn't move as I braced myself for whatever was coming. That's when I felt a soft palm touch my right hand. Confused, I looked down to see that I was being given a handshake. He shook my hand for a couple of seconds as he continued staring directly at me. He then stopped after a while as he finally went back to his seat. That's when another message came from the speaker saying, "1242, do you have anything to say?" The small man then looked directly at the glass that they were observing us from as he said, "No, I have nothing to say. I've done what you wanted me to do, haven't I?" The man then looked at me and said, "It was nice to meet you, Subject A. Enjoy your sense of self while you still can." Confused, I tried to say something when a message from the speaker said, "The transmission of the retroviral agent SCP-1242-1 has been confirmed. Proceeding to retrieve and quarantine SCP-1242-1A, formerly known as Subject A." Before I could do anything, the door was opened and two people rushed into the room wearing biohazard suits. I was quickly carried out and taken to my room. When I got there, I noticed the observation window that was embedded in the right wall of my room was now open, and I could see the silhouettes of numerous scientists watching me. Before I could settle down, my door was quickly closed and a message from the speaker in my room said, "From now on, you would be referred to as SCP-1242-1A. You are not permitted to leave this room as we would be observing you for the whole day. We are going to ask you for a detailed report in about 6 hours on how you're feeling. That is all." Day, 9th May 2009. Time, 12:30 p.m. So it's been about 6 hours and 30 minutes since my last encounter with the strange man, and since the beginning of my observation. Everything was going fine as I decided to write about my last encounter in my journal. And during the first 5 hours, everything seemed okay. But as soon as the clock hit noon, massive jolts of pain shot through every joint in my body. It hurt to write, move, walk, and even tasks as simple as lying in my bed came with immense pain. I found myself taking deep breaths as it became harder and harder to breathe. My skin became very hot as I was pretty sure I had a fever and thought my heart was going to explode because it was beating way faster than usual. I'm thinking over 170 beats per minute as I could clearly hear the sound of my racing heartbeat in my ear. After a few minutes of this excruciating pain, more strange things started happening to me. For starters, the tip of my fingers started becoming blue, as a blue tint that wasn't there before was now present. And my heart that was beating extremely fast just a few minutes ago started beating extremely slow. I thought I was having a stroke as I could only feel my heart beating slightly when I placed my hand on my chest. During all this time, I was constantly being asked questions by the scientists who were still observing me. I answered them, all while writing down what I was feeling, as doing that was the only thing that grounded me, and it also helped me to bear the pain. Day, May 9th, 2009. Time, 2:00 p.m. It was currently 2:00 p.m. on the dot, and what I felt 2 hours ago is nothing compared to what I'm feeling now. The pain has moved from my joints to every single part of my body, as I'm currently feeling an excruciating amount of pain right now. In addition to the pain, my clothes are now soaked with sweat, and my feet are covered in vomit. I started constantly throwing up a few minutes ago, and I wasn't fast enough to reach the sink. The constant need to use the toilet arose a few minutes after the vomiting. But with my body in intense pain, constantly going back and forth to the toilet to relieve myself was too much for me to handle. So it reached a point where I gave up and soiled myself. Normal human waste wasn't the only thing that came out of me, as I eventually started to release blood in addition to the loss of numerous tissue types like a few of my teeth. When asked how I was feeling, I screamed the words, "Just kill me! Please, just kill me!" But my cries fell on deaf ears, as the silhouettes wearing the white lab coats showed no emotion, and they just responded with, "SCP-1242-1A, we ask you to endure and to continue telling us what you're experiencing so we'd know how to help." I knew they were lying because it was pretty obvious that no one was coming to help me, and all they truly wanted was an analysis. I was asked to stop writing, but I refused as I told them that writing my thoughts down made it easier to relate the information back to them. Day, May 9th, 2009. Time, 3:00 p.m. My hands are no longer mine, and my eyes belong to someone else. My black hair has started to fall out, and the strands of new brown hair have quickly begun to replace it. My skin has also started sagging and shedding, and I can feel a new layer of skin tightening itself around my now shrinking bones. I tried to kill myself by stabbing the pen through my eye socket, but I can't. And it's not because I didn't want to. It's because I couldn't do it. My brain, or whoever's controlling it now, doesn't allow me to do that. I feel my bones restructuring and compressing themselves, and I can also feel my ribs shrinking as they compress my lungs. I can hear the bones in my toes, phalanges, fracture and retract themselves. It actually feels like they're growing inward. My skull has changed, and I can't see the cheekbones I was born with. I also don't really know where my height has gone. The pain, while still unbearable, has accustomed itself to my body as I'm too tired to scream. My body still releases waste from time to time as my dry lips signal the beginning of dehydration. The scientists watching notice this as a man in a biohazard suit is sent in with a cup of water. I drink it all, but I feel it pass right through me. They ask me what I'm feeling through the speakers, but I can't feel my emotions anymore, so I answer them with one word. Nothing. Day, May 9th, 2009. Time, 5:00 p.m. I can't remember what I was called, but the people behind the glass screen call me SCP-1242-2. It's been 11 hours altogether, and I feel like I have the face and body of another. I can't remember much of what I looked like before, and my memories before today are a phase. But I remember that I love to write down my thoughts. So I'm currently sitting down and writing. All the feelings of pain and suffering are gone, and I truly feel calm and happy. I can't remember if my life meant something yesterday, but my life has no meaning to me anymore, as all I want and all I feel is the incessant urge to protect the one they call 1242. SCP-1242 bears the appearance of an adolescent Caucasian human male. The subject is approximately 4 feet, 5.937 inches, 137 centimeters in height, and weighs around 41 kilograms. The subject is fully capable of communicating in English, as it's clear that the subject possesses intelligence. He is also usually cooperative with the Foundation's personnel. The subject is currently contained in 2 adjoining rooms measuring 2 meters by 2 meters by 3 meters. All access to the subject is limited to a single entry point equipped with remote handling, clean room, decontamination, and quarantine facilities. Remote handling is to be used when interacting with SCP-1242 whenever possible. Level A biohazard suits are required for all non-test subjects physically interacting with SCP-1242. SCP-1242's anomalous properties are as follows. The subject releases a retroviral agent called SCP-1242-1 from all body orifices, pores, and glands. SCP-1242-1 is 99.9% infectious when transmitted by direct contact through skin contact, and 100% infectious when transmitted by direct contact through ingestion. Subjects who are infected are referred to as SCP-1242-1A and are quarantined immediately. The retroviral agent, SCP-1242-1, acts directly on a genetic and cellular level through an unknown process. Infection is followed by an incubation period of 6 hours, after which SCP-1242-1 symptoms began to manifest. Within 6 hours, SCP-1242-1A began to experience acute pain in joints, fever ranging from 38 to 40 degrees Celsius, respiratory difficulty, cardiac arrhythmia, the improper, irregular beating of the heart, either too fast or too slow, and cyanotic extremities, the bluish discoloration of the hands, fingertips, and toes. Within 8 hours, subjects began to indicate a global pain throughout the body. Further symptoms differ depending on the mass of the subject. Subjects bigger in size than SCP-1242 began to experience violent emesis, perspiration, and diarrhea. Waste produced during this time is composed of different tissue types throughout the body. Subjects then begin to slowly reduce in mass and physical size. Larger subjects have an estimated 43% survival rate during this stage. Smaller subjects begin to swell, bloat, and increase in weight as they develop a ravenous appetite. They normally prefer foods rich in protein, and their estimated survival rate is 6%. Within 9 hours, SCP-1242-1A begins to closely match the size and mass of SCP-1242. The subject's characteristics pertaining to race, skin color, and facial features are eliminated as the subject's body begins the restructuring process in order to achieve the end-stage result. Females have a higher chance of dying in this stage due to the complicated restructuring of the primary reproductive systems and organs. Larger subjects continue to experience emesis and diarrhea, in addition to skeletal reconstructuring and fracturing. Skin begins to loosen and shed, and loss of hair begins. During this stage, subjects are then prone to organ failure from bursting, compression, and dehydration. Administering water could potentially increase survival rates, but not significantly. Smaller subjects begin to rapidly grow in size. Due to this, they experience stress fractures and internal lacerations. The survival rate is estimated to be about 4%, and only if subjects are given adequate nutritional supplements do their survival chances go from 4% to 32%. Within 10 hours, subjects who survive now closely resemble the appearance of SCP-1242. Within 11 hours, signs of all symptoms are reduced, and it becomes impossible to distinguish or tell apart subjects from the original SCP-1242 by sight, as they all bear the exact same appearance and physical characteristics as that of SCP-1242. During this stage, all subjects are to be referred to as SCP-1242-2. SCP-1242-2s are often in a state of happiness and euphoria. Reports also state that they now appear to be really sensitive and docile in nature. The psychological analysis of the individuals also shows that most subjects do retain bits of their memories and their existence prior to the process, but they do possess a huge alteration in their personality traits. SCP-1242-2s all possess an incessant drive to protect SCP-1242, and they will do anything, be it attack unprovoked and spread the retroviral agent in order to attain that goal. The original SCP-1242 is currently on strict suicide watch, as he often displays depressive behaviors. Due to the subject's current tendencies of self-harm, any request made by the subject should be submitted to the site director. SCP-1242 was found when the Foundation started receiving strange reports from a rural town. The reports stated the disappearance of numerous youths in the town, and after a while, new reports followed, as there was a strange emergence of similar and identical male youths around the area. The entry that you just heard was taken from the Journal of Subject A, SCP-1242-2, formerly known as Diego Gonzalez. He has long been put down with most of the other SCP-1242-2 cases, as they all showed violent tendencies when SCP-1242 was attacked during the final stages of testing. Just like him, millions of other individuals are killed every day at the Foundation when being subjected to tests as lab rats, or as he termed it, cattle. And if you're looking for sympathy or remorse, you wouldn't find it here, when there's truly no room for morals, when the fate of humanity is at stake.